the new standard in performance and safety. At $35,490 fully equipped and 7-year warranty, the all-new MG HS is value you've never seen before.
Well, what an absolute special treat this week on Gibbo Goes One, driven by MG. AFL star, junior basketball phenom from what I've been told, but most important, I reckon, is a table tennis champion, Jack Watts. Thanks for joining me.
Absolute pleasure, Gibbo. Thanks for having me on. You might be brief a little bit there with this star comment, but yeah, happy to be here.
Now, MG are one of our sponsors at the NBL, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, obviously one of your sponsors at Port Adelaide, also a sponsor of this up-and-coming podcast. Now, I think we're both unfortunate and we don't actually get to drive one ourselves, but I've been lucky enough to be in one. And I understand one of your young guys just got a new one as well.
Yeah, well, as we were just talking about, you've got to be a good player to get given the free cars these days. So I certainly don't qualify, but Connor Rosie, he's my favourite player at the club. He's going to be a superstar, and he's just been given a brand new MG. It looks beautiful. He says he loves it. He's doing some pretty good work. So, yeah, pretty happy to have him on board, to be honest. At Port Adelaide, we're very fortunate. So, thank you, MG.
MG, you guys are the best. Now, I understand you just finished practice. Obviously, you're injured. How's that all? First of all, how good is it to have footy back? I know as a fan and a viewer to have footy back on TV, but you guys as players, it must be cool to have it back finally playing games.
Yeah, it gives you something to do, doesn't it? Finally on the weekend and something to watch. And yeah, I guess for me, I was out for, so what's it been? I played my first game against opposition on the weekend in 16 months. So it's been a pretty long process to get back there. But yeah, pretty exciting and enjoyable to get out and play some footy. And the boys are playing pretty well as well at the moment. So sitting pretty on top of the ladder and pretty good spot to be.
How are you going? Obviously with the injury, do you have an expected return date when we can see you back out there on the field? Is it still going to be a little while, or how's that all going?
Yeah, going really well. Had a few little hiccups and not hiccups, but just a bit of soreness while I was coming back and over the last few weeks. But yeah, probably these last 2 weeks have been as good as I've felt. And yeah, as I said, played in the twos on the weekend. So yeah, from here on in, it's really just, hopefully I can push a case, but when the ones are winning by 85 points every week and makes it a bit tougher to break into, but no, hopefully I'll get a gig to go up to Gold Coast with our squad, go up there and try and train the house down and yeah, just wait and see. It's a long season, a lot of injuries and, you need pretty deep squads. So I'll be ready when I get my time, my call up.
How's it been? Obviously, you didn't play on the weekend in the ones, but with the no crowd, watching it on TV, you hear the fake noise and stuff, and it's all right. But has anyone said anything about playing in front of no crowd? Is it like it's kind of a scrimmage, just like a practice match, or just like another game?
Yeah, well, I guess there's little parts of that. It probably feels like a training session at times, but then you got to realise that there's 4 points on the board, and each game's pretty important. But I think for us, in Adelaide, we sort of have such an advantage of a home ground advantage when teams come over and play against us, and we've got 45,000 people in the stands, all barracking for us. It's a bit different back in Melbourne when you've probably got 10 or 15,000 from the opposition at their away games. So. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but hopefully everyone's being good and behaving themselves, and we can get some supporters there pretty soon.
I'm intrigued with your whole isolation schedule. So for us basketballers, we don't need, I guess, a lot of miles in our tires. So you guys run a lot of kilometres, physical sport. Like, how's the whole isolation thing been? I'm sure you guys have your own great programs, but staying in shape, the whole physical contact side of things, and I guess training for all that.
Yeah, it was a real sort of learning curve to start with, and to be honest, I was pretty thankful that I'm one of the old boys now, and you do learn how to, your training standards and how to push yourself a bit. Whereas if I was in my first couple of years, I can tell you I would have been missing a few extra sessions and probably would have come back a little bit underdone, I'd imagine. But yeah, so I went back to Melbourne as soon as it all happened. Went back to family and friends, and my sister had just had a baby, so it was good to sort of see her and see little Ava. And then what sort of helped me was one of my best mates. He's always been, not super fit, and so if he came with me to do a session, he'd be sort of struggling a little bit and drop out after a couple of sets. And then I went back there this time, and first session he said, "Oh yeah, I'll come for a run. I've been doing a bit of running." And so the first session we go out there, and I'm thinking I'll probably getting towards the end, and I've probably dropped him, and I look behind me and he's right on my hammer. So that was a bit of extra motivation, I guess, for me to stay fit and get the running going. But yeah, I guess the hardest thing was just the physical stuff that we couldn't get in. So we pretty much just ran and tried to stay strong, did some weights and stuff like that. But you didn't really get that footy practice. Whereas, yeah, for you guys, you can jump on the court and shoot 1,000 balls, and a bit easier.
It's a lot different. Obviously, with you guys being back, was there a lot of extra drills to try and work on that tackling and all that, the bumping? Because I'm assuming if you haven't practiced that kind of stuff, like potential for injuries and shoulders or, all that kind of stuff. So has that been any kind of focus or?
Yeah, we sort of just got straight into it, to be honest, just straight into footy. And, that they put a lot of trust in us to come back fit and come back and having done the program that they set. So, it's just been all footy and contest, and because we had I think it was about a 3 or 4 week little mini pre-season before we got into games. So pretty much all of that was straight into bash and crash and get used to playing again.
So what I've been told is you as a junior were quite the basketballer. Grew up in Sandringham, I believe.
Yep.
I hear you're under 14 Sandringham team of the national champs.
Yep, true.
Was basketball always, you obviously did both. There's a lot of athletes, I grew up playing footy, a lot of footballers played basketball. Was that something you loved doing as a junior, growing up playing both? Obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, you had a scholarship to AIS. Vince Crivelli, who's now the GM at Melbourne United, I asked him for a little insight, and says one of the most talented basketballers he's seen, and he's open to some early morning individuals if you're ever keen. But I guess how did basketball kind of come along, and then the decision to eventually go to football?
Yeah, well, I guess basketball was probably my first, real love, and compared to footy, it gets pretty serious early on, doesn't it? So, as you said, I sort of, I can remember one session, Vince got me down there training with Daniel Dillon, and I was a young kid, and I ended up, it was about 4:30 in the morning. I ended up spewing up on the court because I was that nervous and cooked. But I loved it, and it was it certainly was a real passion. And but yeah, it got to that point of about 15 years old when I got that AIS offer, and I was at school and I was loving my time at school with my friends and family, and I just wasn't really ready to move away from home and, sort of give up schooling and commit to a sort of, that AIS lifestyle, I guess, training all day and fitting school around training. So, and then the real turning point for me was, like, I think when I was in year 10, I think, and I was playing in the under 18s state basketball and state footy teams. I was bottom age in the basketball team. Guy Malloy was my coach, and I was probably at the peak of my powers basketball-wise then, and then playing footy on the weekend about 6 weeks out from the tournament, ended up snapping my collarbone playing footy. So that put an end to that, and then so trying to come back and playing basketball after that, I probably never really reached the same heights again, and then got into footy and decided to take that up. But you do sort of look back and think, what if sometimes?
Do you think if you hadn't had that injury that basketball may have taken over? You said that was your first love or whatever, and I love playing football as well, but I don't know that I would have chosen football if basketball wasn't kind of there?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say now, isn't it? Hindsight's a beautiful thing, but when I look at blokes like Delhi and Paddy Mills and those boys, I was sort of at a few camps with them, and they used to run rings around me. But you watch those boys signing their $50 million deals over in the States, and you think, geez.
Maybe if they had to try it a little bit harder, or maybe
Exactly.
they didn't go out that night or something like that, for sure.
But at the same time, it's one thing to be a good player as a kid, but those guys, as you would know, their work ethic and their determination and grit and all that kind of thing, you just never know whether you'd make it or not. And but yeah, I certainly love it. And to be honest, I can't wait until I finish footy and I can sign up to the old Wednesday night hack team and try and get some skills back. Were
you offered a scholarship to go to Arizona back when you were younger?
Not quite. I don't think it was on the table, but yeah, Vince had some pretty good contacts, I'd imagine, and I think there may have been something in the works there with his contacts over there, but yeah, that was all a long time ago now.
Now, I don't know the whole school football, how that all works. Obviously, you went to Brighton Grammar, which I assume is one of the better schools you can go to. And then how does that AAS for football work? Is it similar to basketball? Obviously, I'm assuming there's not a lot of people that have been offered a scholarship to both basketball and football, both at AAS.
Yeah, so the footy's not quite as intense, I suppose. So you basically get selected by, I don't really know who selects it, to be honest, but talent managers around the country, and they select 30 kids that they think have the most potential, I guess, to play AFL footy at about 15 years old, I think it was. And then you do probably, I think it was about 3 camps that we'd go up there and spend maybe a week or 2 up there and just get to know what it takes to be a professional footy player or athlete or whatever it is. And then we also went over to South Africa and did like a 3-week tour over there, which was pretty special. But compared to the ballers, going in and living there and, full-time athlete and not quite as intense.
I know for me, coming from Tasmania, playing, state or whatever, just locally in Tassie, to go to the AAS, to have 3 sessions a day, going to and from school pretty much every day was like a massive wake-up call for me. I didn't know what to expect. It was like a massive shock to the system. So I can imagine a lot of people wouldn't be able to, it's tough for anyone that's never been there.
Exactly. And that's probably the one thing I realized, like growing up, like basketball was tough. It was just, work ethic wise and hours. And, I remember just getting up in the morning and you're going and training at 5 a.m. and then going to school. And then I just think for my dad, he's driving me around everywhere, driving me to training at 5 a.m. and then taking me to school and then picking me up and going out to Keysborough or Ivanhoe or whatever for, under 18 state training and then coming back. And, so yeah, it's just that extra time that you can put into basketball because it's not quite as demanding on your body, I guess, compared to footy. So you can just put in hours of practice and practice and practice. So
how
got to love it, I guess.
Oh yeah. How cool or how special was it to be drafted the number 1 pick? Obviously, it comes with a lot of pressure, and from my understanding, you had a great under 18 nationals. I think you're a bottom age. I think from reading, Nick Nadu was maybe top age, and he was going to be the number 1 pick. And then you obviously had an unbelievable nationals, and I think you may have kicked the match-winning goal maybe after the siren or something. But the whole process around obviously the nationals, which are, as I know, a lot of fun to go to any kind of nationals. But then the whole being drafted number 1 and that all excitement, I guess, around that.
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. It was an amazing year for me. I was bottom age for the footy. I was in year 11, still at school. And yeah, sort of got picked and just lucky enough, yeah, played very well. And we had a really good team and And yeah, we ended up winning the carnival. I won the best player at the carnival, and then yeah, still at school, year 11, and you end up getting drafted, pick one to Melbourne, a Melbourne team, and yeah, it was an amazing time of my life and pretty special to look back on. And the hard thing now is what followed, and the next sort of 5 or 6 years were pretty bloody tough. Sports wise, that's for sure. I think that was the hardest thing, like being used to being a really good player and winning most things, and basketball, we sort of won everything we went after, really. And then footy, I was lucky enough to win 5 premierships or whatever for my club back home. So getting used to that, and then going to play professionally, and we really just struggled for 6-7 years, right down the bottom of the ladder, winning 2 games out of 24 in the whole year. It was a big sort of contrast, but yeah, that year in year 11, that was pretty special.
How good was it going back to school the next day or whenever it was, and just walking around and probably having everyone all over you, just like hyping you up? That must have been a pretty cool, I guess, moment. Or next, like you said, you had a good year, but the next few months of that must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. If only we were at a co-ed school, Gibbo, it would have been a bit better. But no, it was awesome, and it was good to just enjoy it with my mates and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess I was drafted end of year 11, so then my year 12 year was a bit interrupted, and I wasn't able to play school footy at all with the boys, and so yeah, just a few things that looking back on, I'd probably change. But yeah, I'll never forget my first game I played against Collingwood, Queen's Birthday, in front of 70,000. We got done by about 60, 70 points again. But the very next day, so all the boys, finished playing footy, and then very next day I had to go in 8 a.m. do my accounting exam at school. So just a bit of a weird setup, but wouldn't change it for the world.
Is that a common thing that kids? Is that the age you get drafted when you're still in year 12, or is that changed at all?
They did change it actually the year after. Right. The year after we got drafted.
I was going to say that's pretty tough to be a professional and then go back and have to be at school as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the next year I think they changed it to you have to be finished year 12, and they made the age a bit older. So I think that's definitely a good thing.
Oh, it's a great thing by the sounds of it. Obviously you're in Melbourne for those years, and then Port Adelaide, was it a simple thing if your time was up in Melbourne or you wanted to change? I know I've been on teams where it just happens that, for both parties, change is good. And I know living in Adelaide, it's pretty easy to live there. I know they get behind their football. So was that like a choice on your part, or you just wanted to be in Adelaide? Were there other teams that you could have gone to instead of Port?
I think, as you said, it was a bit of a, best of both worlds for both parties, I think. Playing at Melbourne for 9 years, and there was a lot of, turmoil and negative sort of energy around it, I guess, from my first few years. I think we got Roosie came in. He had a three-year tenure where he had Simon Goodwin as who was there ready to take over. And so I think when Goody got the job, I think it was a bit of, let's get rid of that sort of baggage and move on, really, for both parties. Even, for me to get away from that and, not have that stigma of being the number one pick and blah, 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 to get to a fresh start and a new team. And Port Adelaide, it was just the best fit. There's a few teams. I sort of was trying to stay in Melbourne, but in the end, Port Adelaide was the best fit. And I've loved it over here. As you said, it's pretty easy living, that's for sure. Pretty relaxed and no traffic. And I've enjoyed it.
Easy to get around. It's either cold or it's hot. There's no hot then cold. How have you found Ken Hinkley? I know Ken like a small amount from being on the Gold Coast when he was coaching up there. I was in Adelaide for 4 years and had a little bit to do with him. And obviously, you see him on TV and he's obviously a certain way. But I was listening to him on the radio and he's actually seems like he's quite a funny guy. How's he been in like just the coach where he's not always serious, but he has a bit of humour? He seems like he lets his players play. I know you guys have a few young guys that are kind of allowed to show who they are and just kind of play their way.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I think he does definitely love, the development side of coaching. And so these young guys that have come in, it's sort of no surprise that they've flourished the way that they have with Ken at the helm, because he really does just it gives them confidence. He allows them to play the way they want to play. And then, there's also a lot of responsibility on the older guys to enable them to, come in and have fun and play rather than, have a whole lot of responsibility as a young kid, which I think is how it should be. But yeah, Ken's been great. He's very supportive, very, to be honest, I don't envy head coaches, that's for sure. It's a bit of a nightmare job. So, as soon as you lose one or two games, the media's all over you and they're asking for your head. And then, now we've won a couple early here and they're saying that he's, the best coach in the world. So I certainly don't envy that side of it, and he handles it very well.
Any of your boys into basketball? I know I've seen other teams have hoops up and messing around after practice, shooting hoops or whatever, but any of the boys think they're potential hoopers?
Well, it's a bit tough for us because, the guys that used to play basketball, we've got that little sort of tag on our name, and then we cop it from everyone else because they're saying, "Oh, you guys, you reckon you're that good at basketball?" So there's a few. So me and Robbie Gray. Robbie was obviously, pretty special talent in whatever he does. So he's very good. And Miles Bergman, who's a young guy that we just drafted, he played for Australia, and he was a very good basketballer as well. So couple of us, but there's a ring out the back in our little indoor area. So we, often get out there and have a shoot around and try and take everyone on. But Kenny actually fancies himself the most when we play knockout. Surprise, surprise. So talks the most too.
I believe that from his radio interview the other day. He was talking shit to Billy Brownless and I was losing it. You guys get down and see any of the NBL games when obviously teams come into town?
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't a whole lot over here in Adelaide. Back when I was in Melbourne, and you spoke about Vince. So were you there when Vince... So when you won the championship with the Dragons, was Vince there as well?
He was on the other team.
Oh, he's on the other team.
Him and my head coach now, Simon Mitchell, they were part of the Tigers. So my two championships, two out of 3 years was against the Tigers. So
wow. Was that Hammer Hill? Was Hammer Hill there at that stage, or was that?
No, Hammer had left. So it was Joe Ingles and Worthington and on that Dragons team. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I came to a fair few of those games. I saw Ingles play there a couple of times. And then once Vince went over to, he went to the Dragons, didn't he?
No, he kind of, I'm not sure what he did. No, he wasn't with us. Well, I was only there for 1 year.
Okay.
I just flew in, got a championship, and then flew out back to the Gold Coast.
Off the went, yeah. No, but yeah, I used to get down there a fair bit actually in Melbourne because we trained just across the road at Amy Park, and would head over there and watch, and it was pretty exciting. A couple of guys that I used to play against, Jason Kiddee, sort of doing some good things, and it was always good to see him. And Brandon Tees, he's another one. So that was sort of my age group.
Now, I know you've got a Labrador Jet. I've got two labs. They have been the best thing during isolation. They do everything, but how good's having a pet?
It doesn't get any better, does it? Where is he? Bring it on. Here he is.
Living the life.
Look at him. Up on his perch.
Living the life.
He keeps me sane, that's for sure. Take him down the beach, and he's a good leveler.
I also understand you bought or purchased a piano a little while ago, a few years ago. How's your how's your penis skills going?
That was, I did that to woo a girl actually, and try to impress her. And I learned a couple of songs and then haven't really jumped back on it since. But it's definitely something I'd look to try and get back into eventually. But unfortunately, the musical talent didn't really get to our family.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like, music's a big passion of mine. I love going to gigs and love listening to music and, musical theatre and all the rest of it. I'm all over it, but I just have no idea what I'm doing when I give it a go. So
another thing, now I'm house at it. I got clubs when I was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I reckon I've used them once, probably for putting around the house. But golf, I see you pick up golf. How is your golf? You're not too bad at golf, I understand, but it's something's pretty cool to get away from sport and just go and have a swing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of meditation time, really. But yeah, very, very passionate about golf. My dad tried to get me into it early days, because he loved it, and I hated it. Had no patience for it as a young kid, and then once I got drafted and started to hang around with a lot of the footy boys, a lot of them were right into it. So I probably started playing, when I was sort of 19, 20, taking it a bit more seriously. And lately now I'm a tragic, and it's a bit embarrassing really, but I love it. And still battling away.
One of your young boys sent through a little question about, I hear Star Wars is something that you just absolutely love to death.
Oh, I'm just a bit of a nerd, let's be honest. Golf, Labrador, and Star Wars. Musical theatre as well. Star Wars is my auntie actually, back, when I was growing up, 5, 6, 7 years old, she was mad into Star Wars. So I started off on the originals, the 4, 5, and 6, and then have loved it ever since. I probably go through the Star Wars marathon once a year, and so that's another passion.
I don't know if you're still involved with the Cancer Council. I've done some stuff with breast cancer, and the reason I got my 2 labs was in Adelaide. I was doing some stuff with the guide dogs. Are you still involved with the Cancer Council and charities like that?
Yeah, not quite as much these days. I was involved with the Vic Cancer Council over there, and have had a bit of that in my family. My grandma had breast cancer, and another family member over here in Adelaide's got breast cancer at the moment. So felt pretty passionately about that, but since being over here, haven't quite been as hands-on, but still stay in touch with them. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world at the moment, isn't there? A lot of things that we need to try and help and improve, but that's certainly one of them.
Now, I mentioned earlier about your table tennis skills. I've been told that you were national team bound at a very young age. I also know that you went a 3-peat when you're in Melbourne with the Demons, team champ, table tennis champ. Something that you're obviously very good at as well. Yeah,
well, I mean, the competitive juices get you, don't they, when you're young? And we had a table back when I was pretty young, and Dad was reasonable at table tennis. So, when I started off, I couldn't get near him, and he beat me every single time, and I just keep trying to play him. And then eventually I started getting him. And then my best mate growing up, James North, he's another one, little competitive prick that, really gets after me. He used to beat me at cross-country running, and we'd play footy and basketball together growing up. And he's a lefty, so we'd just play for hours and hours and hours. And then I sort of didn't play for a while, and got drafted, got to Melbourne, and then we got a table at the new facility, and everyone jumped on board. So there's a few of us, me and Shannon Burns, Jeremy Howe, Jared Rivers, and Ro Bale. We were sort of the crew that loved it. But when it really mattered, I came out on top, So
Right on top, huh? I like it. Now, something I think is pretty cool. You started your own business, swimsuits or swimsuit trunks. Now, squash.
Squash. Yeah.
Squash. So Squash is your label. We'll give that a bit of a plug. We'll put their little link up in a minute. But how did you get into that? Obviously, if you're in Melbourne, it must have been for about 2 months of the year because it's cold every other day. You can't really rock some swimmers. But how did that all come about and how's that going?
Yeah, going really well. It's been going for about 5 years now. So it's it's sort of a proper business, which is exciting. The name came about. This is actually quite funny. So there's 3 of us involved, and Walshy and I, who sort of came up with the idea. We're very, I guess, business orientated and no creative flair whatsoever. And so our other mate, Jack Turner, he's our designer. We asked him to come up with the name, and he said he was on a tram in Melbourne and it was absolutely packed, and he was getting squished everywhere, and he looked down, his little knackers were just squashed up against the door, and so that's where he came up with the name Squash, and we ran with it. So that's where the name comes from. Walshy, my mate Adam Walsh, he basically runs the show. He was very entrepreneurial as a kid. He was one of those kids at school who was, buying the slabs of Coca-Cola 24 pack for, whatever it was, $15, and then selling them for $2 each and making a little profit. And then from that, he went on to, what were those wristbands, the balance bands?
Oh, yeah. Power band or something.
Power bands. He made thousands out of that at 15 years old, and then was bringing over sort of gym gear and skipping ropes and all the rest of it from China as a 17-year-old. So I sort of just said to him when we were young, I said, look, let's get into something. Let's try and start a business. And here we are 5 years later, and he's working on it full time. And it's pretty fun. It's a lot of fun, actually.
I'll make sure I jump on and get some there. And that's www.squash.com.au/. Now,
you won't pay for any, Gibbo. We'll get some sent out to you. Don't worry about that.
This is how we work here. I love it. Now, obviously, if you have a pair of them on, I understand you're a very light traveller. So if you've got a pair of the Squash shorts, probably all you need is a plastic bag, a toothbrush, and a passport. Now, I understand when you travel light. Bali is obviously a beautiful, hot destination, so you probably don't need much else, but you like to travel light with the bare essentials.
Jeez, you've done some good homework here, haven't you? Well, that was my first ever footy trip. And I think we had the best and fairest the night before, so we're all out in the sauce. I was in year 11, mind you, it would have been year 12. Yeah, year 12, going into my term 3 exams. And I've decided that team bonding was a bit more important. I needed to get to know the boys. So a little week over in Bali for footy trip was more important. And I got home that night, probably about 4 in the morning, and we had to be at the airport at 8 in the morning. And I was pretty rattled and just grabbed a toothbrush, grabbed the passport, and thought I could buy the rest over there. So that was... it was a good week, actually. A lot of fun.
Just the bare essentials. I love it. I had a couple left for you. Do you have a favourite basketballer? Now I know Jordan, and I'll get to him in a minute. Favourite player growing up, I'm assuming was him?
Yep. Yeah. Jordan grew up on all his tapes and his videos and his docos and all the rest of it. And so, The Last Dance that just came out was pretty inspirational, wasn't it?
That was good, huh?
Yeah, it was intense. It just I don't know. I guess it just sort of proved I just think him as a person, I wonder how he would go in today's world, with everyone being a lot more sensitive, I guess. And, he was just a ruthless person, wasn't he? Competitor. And, but he won. And I think that's why he could be the way he was, because they won. And, but at the same time, I do sort of hate the whole debate about LeBron and Jordan and, LeBron is just the most incredible player and person, I think, off the court, and everything he does and stands for is pretty special. And, he doesn't have to be like Jordan, in my opinion. He doesn't have to be a prick to try and, make everyone do what he wants them to do. He brings them along with him. And I think that's special in its own right as well. So
I get sick how they go on about it for so long and comparing 2 eras. They're completely different eras. You can't that's where I get frustrated. They're completely different times, and Jordan was playing against these little guys, all this stuff. But
the old boys are always going to think that their era was better and tougher, and the new guys are always going to say that we suck you boys. So
how do you compare them? I just remember watching that, like thinking how I don't remember Jordan being that big and like being that athletic and just kind of dominating.
Yeah.
So that doco for me was awesome to watch.
Yeah. These days, who do I love these days? Lonnie Walker's my new favourite.
He just cut his hair off.
Yeah, I saw that. Crazy. But I reckon he'll be pretty special. I mean, hard to go past the Aussies. Ben Simmons jumped on board with Philly.
Do you try and get over, I mean, when you can, obviously in the off-season, and go and watch some games and spend a bit of time over there?
Yep, I've done did a few trips over there. Andrew Bogut, the great man that he is, he sort of trained. He was from Sandringham as well, and so had a little connection with him, and he loves his footy. So I messaged him one year when I was heading over there, and he got me and a mate basically courtside tickets to the LA. It was Lakers v Clippers, game 1 of the season. It was unbelievable. So yeah, that was pretty special. Now I'm just going to try and ride Christian Petrarca's coattails and get over there and see Ben Simmons.
I messaged him about you to try and get a little bit of inside info, but he must be so busy he didn't get back to me. But
Petrarca.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd just be celebrating his best on-ground performance and wouldn't have time for anyone else at the moment after his weekend's 3 goals or whatever he kicked.
My other sources came through with the goods, though, so that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Man, that's all I had for you. Obviously, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know you guys are busy back trying to get fit and healthy to play and whatnot, but I appreciate you taking the time out and giving up a bit of your day.
Absolute pleasure, mate. And next time we're in the same state, I'd love to come down and see what I've still got.
We'll get you on down. Maybe, hopefully after this, MG might hook us up with our brand new rides. I'll come pick you up in the brand new MG, which has, have you been in one? The sunroof, it's almost like a convertible. The thing is that big. Unreal, mate. They are elite. But, man, Jack, I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me on Gibbo Goes One, driven by MG, our fabulous partners. And good luck when you get back into a game. We'll be watching and wishing you all the best.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, bro.